What I'd like to do is bring out Nadav Rayman, who is with our Partner of the Year for BI, BizData. He's going to talk to us about the Tourism Australia project that they took on. So, Nadav? So, Nadav, tell me about your company.
So BizData is a pure-play Microsoft BI and analytics partner based in Australia. We're in our 10th year this year, and we've got an amazingly passionate team that builds really great solutions for our customers.
Got it. And what technologies do you work with at BizData?
So just the Microsoft BI stack. So traditionally, SQL Server, SharePoint, Office, and in the last couple of years, all of the Azure data services, Azure as a cloud platform, Power BI, machine learning, the list goes on.
The list goes on, and it's getting longer.
Cortana Analytics.
Yes, yes. So tell me about Tourism Australia. What was their problem? What were they trying to do?
Well, just some context around Tourism Australia. They're the marketing agency charged by the Australian government to attract visitors to Australia. Okay. So they're responsible for about $83 billion of revenue. So that's about 5% of GDP. It's an interesting project for us. We've never really delivered a project that affected the Australian economy so substantially. So so with Tourism Australia, they have a 2020 vision of growing that, basically almost doubling that figure. So they really needed to change the way they worked. They're spread around 17 markets, and they really needed to connect people to data, as you were saying. So we started off implementing the Enterprise BI stack as infrastructure as a service on Azure, and then that brought us to Power BI.
Got it. And so my understanding of the project is that they spend a lot of money on marketing to try and get people to come to Australia, and so they wanted a solution that allowed them to track those expenditures and understand if those expenditures were paying off.
Absolutely. So for them, it's all about closing the loop on marketing campaign expenditure. So knowing when to pull a campaign or adjust that campaign and make those timely decisions.
Got it. Yep. And so why did you guys choose Power BI? I'm sure you looked at a lot of options.
Well, I guess the four key reasons were, first of all, the ability to leverage on-premise, or in this case, private cloud data, so, and specifically tabular models. So they had large volumes of data, they needed data level security, and they liked the idea of having one dashboard that serves multiple audiences. Second reason was, the global nature of their business. So they needed a simple solution that was web-based, that would be delivered all around the world, and also to mobile devices. So they're marketing people, they like consuming these dashboards on their iPads, so that was really important in terms of user adoption. The third reason really would be around the real-time. Yeah, the real-time element. So a big part of how they actually start to analyze the lead indicators of a campaign working is looking at Twitter feeds. So being able to see that in real time was really important. And finally, I think just that new concept that Power BI brings in around the dashboard. So being able to bring all these data sources and mash them up on the one single pane of glass.
So let's take a look at it.
Okay, sure. So what we're seeing here is that single pane of glass. So behind this dashboard is a whole lot of different data sources. So you have actual expenditure feeding in from Dynamics AX. You've got campaign plans, so budgets and forecasts, coming in from actually a third-party solution that sits on the Microsoft platform called Kepion. Great solution, Seattle-based company.
Nice.
In the middle column, you can actually see the real-time Twitter feeds coming in. So you can see a counter of the tweets that are coming in. Okay. And on the right-hand column, you can actually see the arrivals data. So that's, finally the results of their marketing campaigns.
So on the left-hand side, you've got the marketing spend, the impact on social media, and then the actual, where the rubber meets the road, people landing in Australia.
Yeah. So those arrivals cards you fill in on the plane before you go through customs. That's where that data ends up. So I guess, thinking about how they use this, they'll start with analyzing their expenditure, potentially looking at, pulling some levers in terms of their online advertising, working out, where to spend more or less money. And so, you can, if you're not familiar with Power BI, you can pin these visualizations from your reports onto a dashboard. That's really easy. One of the new features which I just noticed is you can actually set your own custom link, which I think is pretty cool. But in this case, we're going to just click to a dashboard. So let me just click across. OK. Oh, there we go. So what you can see here is Power View or Power BI Report. And so you can see a gauge measuring actual versus target in terms of expenditure. You can see a budget versus actual chart with the variance as the line chart, and a nice visualization which is new to Power BI, or the Power BI V2 service, which is the tree map, which is a nice indicator of just to understand quantitatively, how the different markets compare. In this case, we're just interested in the Americas. So I'll click on that, and within a moment, we'll see the report just filter for the Americas. I might just refresh that. OK. Let me click back on there. OK, here we go. So clicking on the Americas.
Come on now. Lovely.
So what we'll see in a second is the entire dashboard just filter for that particular region. So it will still show the breakdown of the different countries. And what I'm looking for here is to understand, for the US, how am I going in terms of actual versus budget? And so I might move on in a second if it doesn't refresh.
Connectivity there.
Yeah, I think we might have lost.
There we go.
There we go. So what we can see here is by having that line chart, that combination chart, we can see that there's an underspend in terms of our marketing expenditure. And what we can see on the bottom right-hand corner there is a bubble chart, which are the different accounts or projects. So we can see here there's still a bit of money we can spend around branding and communication. So we know we can spend a bit more money.
Got it.
So we might launch a Twitter campaign, some sponsored ads, and see how that works.
One thing I want to make sure that we land on this, because this is unique to Power BI. So that particular connection you just made was from the cloud to an on-premise SQL Server Analysis Services cube.
Yep,
And so this is an important point, and it is very unique to Power BI. If you've got data that exists on-prem, you don't have to pick it up and move it to the cloud. Now, we just, I think, saw some performance issues related to this bouncing around from data center to data center, getting back to Australia. I think it was a bug. We'll fix that. But the important point is that all of this data that exists, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, Power BI does not require you to pick it up and move it. You can leverage it in place. And that allows organizations to both get more value out of the assets they already have and to do it far more quickly than they otherwise would have, and at a lower cost, frankly, because moving data around and replicating it is an expensive process.
OK, great. So let's say we've run a campaign, and we want to start to test whether the messaging is right, whether we've got the target audience right for our Twitter campaign. So we can just simply click on the real-time Twitter dashboard and see the number of tweets in the last 60 seconds, in the last day, break that down by location and a whole lot of things like that. What is actually happening behind the scenes is we're feeding data in from the Twitter API into HD Insight and using Storm to process that. So there's a few things we need to infer. Unfortunately, more and more people are turning on their privacy settings, so we have to infer things like from the IP address what location they're from. And once we process that data, we feed that directly into the Power BI API, the REST API. So within a few seconds, we can actually see exactly what's going on.
Got it.
Narrow that right down to the user handle if we want.
Yeah, I think the striking thing for me, looking at the solution and having talked with you about this, is that this is complicated. You've got data that's sitting on-prem, you've got Twitter feeds, you've got all sorts of sources of data that are coming together, that are being processed in a unified way, and as you said earlier, that you need to deliver out to users who are geographically distributed. And standing all of that up using a combination of Microsoft on-prem technologies and our cloud services, I think was, correct me if I'm wrong, much faster than it would have been historically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just that experience of bringing together your cloud-born data
Yep.
with your first-party on-premise data. And I think the beauty of Power BI is that it gives you the best of both worlds. You have the enterprise BI stack, which we know and love. We've been working with it for years. But introducing something new that is a simple way to basically publish a portal.
Got it.
With your business
So you want to
data.
show one more thing? I think you've got an...
Sure. So let's say we've now collected some arrivals data. So we're looking at the same dashboard now on the iPad app. So there's a native app for Windows, Android, and
iPhone and iPad.
iPhone as well? OK.
Yep.
So in this case, we're just looking at the right-hand column, and I'm interested in this specific report. Just looking at the arrivals by carrier. So unsurprisingly, Qantas is driving most of the arrivals. We might want to have a look at some of the other airlines. There might be an opportunity to actually do a joint marketing campaign, and that's something that Tourism Australia does a lot of, joint marketing campaigns with airlines. So what I can do is just click here to open the report, and this will show a kind of dashboard view, but more of a slice and dice kind of experience. And I can click on Qantas and see just the data relevant to Qantas highlighted on that geographical map there.
Yeah. I think for me, the interesting thing about the mobile capabilities with Power BI is that it didn't require you to do anything specific in order to get this. You did the work that created dashboards and reports in the service, and these native mobile apps, which you can go download off the app stores of the various device manufacturers, sort of just work.
Yep.
And the dashboards and the reports that you have are translated into the mobile form factor.
Yeah, they're already ready for that form factor, absolutely. One of the things you might notice on the map is it might look like there's a few data points in the sea. They're actually Australian islands. You might not realize, but there's 6 groups of islands associated with Australia. So it's not a geocoding error, just in case you were wondering. Yeah, but we can see in this report here, there's a potential to potentially run a campaign with maybe some of the other airlines that aren't driving as much business to Australia. So we can jump back into the dashboard, open this report, and this is one of the neat new features that I didn't realize was released, and it's probably something that's worth keeping in mind around the cadence of the releases around Power BI. You're basically releasing monthly.
We're releasing Power BI every single week.
Right.
And we're releasing PowerBI Desktop, which is the desktop design tool, every month.
Right. Okay. So there's a continuous commitment there, which I think is really impressive in terms of the pace of change. So rather than waiting for a 2-year cycle for a product release, that's something that's really exciting for us as well. Something to go back to customers with every so often.
Yep.
So in this case, I might want to just actually share this report, and one of the things I can do is annotate it. So I might just want to draw around some points. I can add some text, and then just send that off. So just send it by mail or what have you. So you can see how this fits into a collaboration process around using the data. But for Tourism Australia, it's a great way to connect people all around the world.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
James.
Thanks for coming out.